history.
We go on to October the 21st in this series of 14 programs, and I see the name Wendell Willkie, a man from Elwood, Indiana, and also a one-worlder. What did that mean back then?
Well, yeah, he wouldn't have been a conservative Republican today, would he?
Was he a conservative Republican back then?
He was the corporate Republican then, and he was engaged in a national debate. We use the phrase class warfare now. Republicans use it pejoratively when Democrats talk, but you know what? That's what it was, class warfare. Although Willkie grew up on a farm and Roosevelt was to the manor born, Roosevelt and Ickes never saw any irony in that they would punish capitalists. They would plot aboard the yacht and to punish capitalists. But the point is, there was who's going to run the economy, the government or big business? And it's a conversation we're still having.
What did Wendell Willkie look like?
Wendell Willkie looked like a bear. He was a great, big, larger-than-life, rumpled, wrinkled figure who nevertheless had an aura, who had a charisma. Harold Ickes famously said, going to your corporate point, that Willkie's candidacy, which sprung out of nowhere, seemingly.
And he never had a job.
No, he was a Wilsonian Democrat. He'd been a Democrat until the New Deal. But Harold Ickes said that Willkie's candidacy sprung from the grassroots of every country club in America. I mean, there's never been anyone like Willkie. It's hard to imagine there ever being anyone like Willkie. He was beyond a dark horse.
Did Gene Becker, did he ever have a chance of winning?
Oh, no. I suppose of all the people who took Roosevelt on, he and Dewey probably had the most difficult issue. Although,
and what was
1940, isolationism versus interventionism, and as we remember, the United States was not committed, and Roosevelt was working hard on all kinds of changing public opinion, but also public policies. And Willkie, as it turns out, really was an interventionist and ends up with this book about one world, which I'd like to ask you all about. I've never read One World. Is it a pre-UN kind of?
It's the book Woodrow Wilson would have written if he had, lived in 1942, 43. And it goes to one of the things that runs throughout a lot of these contenders. While of course we focus, they're in this series because they were nominated, not just because they ran, but they were nominated by a party to run for president. But Willkie is a classic example. His greatest service, arguably, to the country came after 1940, when he became an emissary for FDR.
And traveled during the war, didn't
traveled
he?
around the world and foreshadowed the realignment of political parties, which has arguably taken place since.
Well, also, Roosevelt outlived him. I mean, Willkie died in 1944, and so did his running mate. I mean, we would have, if we would have
had the Speaker of the House then.
Who knows what would have.
And Willkie was only 52 when he
Yeah.
But it's somehow appropriate. I mean, he burned out. He lived his life like that, and somehow it wasn't a surprise. Yeah.